Hi folks, welcome back to part 2 of my Footium chat with George, the COO of the company, and Sam, the community manager. So if you've missed part 1, I highly recommend you go and watch that first. I will link it right above here. And if you've enjoyed part 1, let me know about it. Drop a like on the video as well. If this one proves useful, do the same thing and maybe consider a subscription for future Footium video content that's coming your way pretty much every week from this point forward. So I hope you enjoy. Let us know what your thoughts are down below. If you've got any questions for the guys as well, I'll leave the link to the Discord that we've mentioned as we go along that you can jump in with any questions to those two, and we'll go from there. So enjoy. And then just to touch on it, because I think this is my favourite thing about the whole Footium project, is that there will be a time where you've got your Ethereum pyramid. Say if it's, I'll just bring up Solana, for example, or Algorand's another one that could be, you'll have these different pyramids, but you'll have a Champions League of the best clubs from each of them coming together to play cross-chain. I think that's a fantastic idea. So how did that come into kind of the thought process, the planning stages?
Well, I know for me, I think the cross-chain Champions League is just something that makes so much sense. If we're going to go on to other change, because you're missing out on quite a lot of audience if we just stick in one place. And for some people, ETH isn't for everyone. Like you said, Solana, they might like Algorand, and it means we're opening ourselves up to a much bigger audience. And if we're having these leagues, then we might as well have a cross-chain Champions League, which it does. I always like typing out in the Discord and writing it on my announcements. And in my, it was my favorite one to write about in the Cup competitions article, because I know it gets people's attention. If you're thinking, well, if I win the ETH League, I'm going to be in a Champions League against someone in the Solana League who you'd never really, it's just not something that a crossover that happens so often. And yeah, that's going to be the ultimate Footium prize, I think. Whoever can win the cross-chain Champions Cup.
Yeah, I don't think there's any comparison right now in terms of a game that's so kind of keen to be cross-chain. So I'm quite excited about it to see how it plays out as well. Obviously, we'll see if anyone can launch a dynasty. And do you think we'll get to the point where it gets a little bit tribal? So not only will people be proud of their own teams, but they'll also be proud of being in the Ethereum pyramid, or like you almost have those teams based on the crypto, not just on the clubs.
Yeah, definitely. I think so, because I think there already is kind of a lot of a bit of tribalism in crypto communities in general. So you see a lot of people that are kind of really into the Avalanche community and kind of getting involved with all the projects there. So if there's a team of theirs that's in the final of the cross-chain Champions League, I imagine people might kind of from the Avalanche ecosystem be supporting that team, and maybe someone from the Polygon ecosystem supporting another team. So there's definitely, I think that would be pretty cool to see. And also, like, whenever there's an English team in the kind of Champions League final, pretty much whoever they are, I'm going to support them, because it's just good to see English football doing well. And I'm only a Lincoln City fan, so there's not really any rivalries for me in the Premier League.
So you're going to enjoy it when the Ethereum League's doing well. It's good to see the Ethereum League doing well.
Definitely, yeah. Good to see it.
We'll see. I'm biased now because I'm in the Ethereum League, so we'll see. We'll see if it stays that way. But you mentioned Polygon there, so I think it's probably a good time to link into the layer 2 side of Ethereum. One of the issues, and I think it's kind of well known with Ethereum, is that the gas fees are quite high. To do any transaction, you're paying on top quite heavily. And I know it's in the roadmap that layer 2 will make sure that the gas fees are much, much lower, especially when it comes to minting players and so on. So have we got an idea of how that's going to work as well?
Yeah, so currently we kind of haven't decided on kind of which specific layer 2 we will be deploying the main game on. But I think at this point it's, as you said, quite clear that games need to be on layer 2s, because on Ethereum it's just kind of not really feasible if you have to be doing, even if it's just 1 or 2 transactions a day, it's still pretty gas intense. So yeah, I guess the general process will be that the game will be built on top of a layer 2, and people will be able to interact, basically for those that aren't kind of too much into crypto, if you're using MetaMask, you can kind of go into the settings, add X layer 2 chain, type in like literally two or three boxes, and then you have that chain. And kind of one of the things you might need to do then is to kind of bridge some of your assets to that chain, in terms of like, say, some Ethereum that you wanted to put into kind of Footium or anything like that, which is quite easy now. I think bridges are becoming much more user friendly, and there's even kind of the in-game bridges you see in Zedrun that have integrated Biconomy's hyphen bridge. So it's pretty much a very seamless interaction for anyone that's trying to get onto from Ethereum to Polygon. So obviously on our side, we're going to make it as user friendly as we can, and kind of anything that does require people to do something that they might not have done before, do another article for it, as we did for kind of setting up your MetaMask wallet for the mint. And yeah, so
hopefully
that's
for the win.
Yeah, definitely for the win as well. But yeah, that's basically the process that will be. And we're obviously doing quite a bit of research at the moment and speaking with some of our investors who have kind of stakes or projects that have been deployed to EV ecosystem. So understanding what that experience looks like. We've had a few calls with teams at different layer 2s looking at the developer support and things like that as well. So hopefully kind of be fairly soon when we kind of decide on which chain we will deploy on. But yeah, obviously need to make sure we get that decision right. I think most of them are pretty good in terms of gas fees, but it's just which one is the easier user experience for the Footium club owners is probably our major main concern.
Yeah, am I right in saying that there's a kind of real keenness to get people involved that might not necessarily have ever been involved in this kind of NFT metaverse gaming side of things when it comes to Footium?
Yeah, definitely. And that's something that I've been trying to do quite a lot, is get the wider football community involved in it, because it's what we touched on a bit earlier with the image of NFTs and this sort of gaming. Is this is a game where you can play Football Manager and you can earn a bit of money, and you don't have to play it too seriously. Like, you don't even really have to mint your players if you don't want to. You can just keep getting your academy players, and then they'll obviously leave at 21, but you can just play a football management game, and then when you're done with it, you can sell it and make a bit of money back. But yeah, it's definitely something we really want to do, and SoRes started to do it, and we're trying to do it as well now.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of one of my main passions in crypto, has just been bringing more people into the space and showing how kind of widely across pretty much every industry that kind of blockchain and crypto can and probably will have an effect. Some of them obviously more immediate than others, such as finance and gaming. But yeah, and like even since kind of setting up the society I did at university to when I was working for Encode Club, I was basically, when I first started there, handling a lot of the relationships with different university blockchain societies that Encode Club has, because that's a big part of their community. And it would be like getting on a train to Exeter for 3.5 hours on a Thursday afternoon, so to go and give a talk, and then getting a 3.5 hour train back. But I think it's kind of definitely worth it, because a lot of people do have an interest in crypto, but they just don't really know where to kind of start looking for kind of resources that they can trust and aren't just kind of price updates and invest in this token, it's the future, and it's very much not. But yeah, I think it's one of the ways that we can do it, especially because gaming is something that's pretty accessible to everyone. Like, I think over half the world's population kind of game from a research study I saw, and whether that's just like mobile games, like let's say Tetris or something, to being a League of Legends player. There's always a kind of an interest for that. Whereas with things like DeFi, whilst it is kind of quite cool that they're kind of disrupting the kind of embedded financial system that is kind of pretty inefficient and pretty hard to take any advantage of as a non kind of high net worth individual, it's just kind of quite inaccessible for people that aren't really into finance, because like no one's going to become a liquidity provider on Sushi Swap if they don't really know what the APY is going to be. You have to understand impermanent loss. You have to understand a lot of different factors before you can even get involved. Whereas with gaming, hopefully we can make it a lot more simple for people to get involved, and it's a lot more fun to get involved. It's not purely just about money. It's about playing fun, having a kind of a good time gaming, and you might have earned some money on the side as well.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie, I'm not at that level in terms of a crypto expert, but this suits me quite well because I can actually understand the kind of simpler gaming aspect of things. But I think that's a good point. It's a good kind of transition into crypto for people that might be interested, but it might seem a bit heavy. And you mentioned Sorare as well. Sorare seems to have a great kind of crossover with fantasy football, I feel like, whereas Footium seems to have a great crossover with Football Manager, LMA Manager, Championship Manager, these kind of
Yeah,
games
yeah, exactly.
as well. So there's definitely a place for more of this side of things as well, I think.
Yeah, 100%. I definitely think there is, and you can see that with the growth of So Rare as well over the last couple of years. I know I had a look at some of the numbers the other day, and their growth in 2021 was massive, and the number of new players that are coming in, and it's getting a lot of people that would never even really have thought about crypto. They starting to understand Ethereum and getting a little bit more into it, and it's a little bit more complicated with Footium, but that's why we're trying to make it as easy as possible with guides and the MetaMask guide and things like that. And I think the as you can see from So Rare, the amount of people that want to play it now, I think that will like transfer to other projects like Footium.
It's probably a good time to bring up the scholarship side of things now, then, because the Sorare is quite easy to get into to get started. I think the difference between that and Footium is obviously you need to own your club for Footium to be involved technically. But the other thing that I like about this is that you don't necessarily need to buy a club, that you can also be a manager or an assistant of someone else's club and earn your way in as well. So how is that going to look like in practice?
Yeah, so I think on the Footium side, one of our main kind of ways to enable that is having a sort of assistant manager role that you can set where even though you have the kind of club, the NFT in your MetaMask wallet, you can assign someone else privileges to do kind of certain actions on your behalf. So whether that's just doing the kind of tactical changes and substitutions for a game, or whether you kind of give them more permission to mint academy players or kind of do some kind of trading of players, that is kind of something you can do. But obviously, if you just wanted, say you're on holiday for a week and you wanted your friend to manage it just for that week, you could give them permissions. Or if it's you want someone to run the club entirely as a scholar, you can do that as well. So, and I think from there, it's kind of where people want to take it themselves. You've obviously got Blackpool who are doing the kind of scholarship model with their 50 clubs, and that's something that's kind of they've been doing with other games such as Axie Infinity, and it does provide a lot more accessibility for people that kind of maybe can't afford to buy a kind of a club themselves, because they obviously the price has risen quite a bit. So it allows people that are still very passionate about gaming and getting into that to then become a scholar, manage someone's club. Maybe I think generally the kind of reward structure in Axie Infinity is that the person actually playing it will take 20 to 30% of rewards gained by their Axie monsters. So I don't know what the models will look like in Footium, but I think a lot of the goal for those scholars is to kind of save up all of that prize money and buy themselves a club so they can then kind of have all that revenue. And I've even seen some people then go on to even buy even more Axies and then start their own scholarship program. So kind of bringing more and more people into the game, which is really cool to see.
So the question is, who's going to be the first kind of Guardiola type character in Footium that people are fighting over to be their manager, I guess?
I'm excited to see. I'm excited to see that, like clubs actually hiring and people sending in their footballing series. A bit like what we saw when we put our beta form out recently. It was awesome reading everyone's hours onto Football Manager and all their achievements over the years.
Yeah, I suspect mine might pale in comparison to some success stories, but we'll move on swiftly. But the other thing that I was going to ask, because it's been brought by a few people, and when I spoke to them about it, is this all of this Footium owning a club, getting involved, the long-term success of it relies on people staying invested. And we're seeing the start of that with the community side of things. You mentioned Twitter and the club accounts and getting really kind of a really decent community start off the ground. So what are you planning long term to keep people invested and to keep the ecosystem growing?
I think long term, we're just at the moment, we want to keep building the community that we've started to build. We want to make sure that We're making as much content on our YouTube and Twitch channels. We're planning another Footium football special in a couple of weeks, which should be good for everyone to get another bit of insight into the game. And yeah, partnering with some more content creators like yourself that can showcase the game to people as well. But yes, I've not really answered that very well.
No,
I can maybe.
I get what you're saying. It's a hard one. I've just given you a really open-ended question to fire on. So
I can maybe add on to that a bit with kind of, I think what keeps people invested in football generally is I think an inherent belief that at its heart it is kind of fair. So you don't have any kind of biases or things like that. And then you also have obviously your affiliation to a certain club is obviously a huge part of it. So having people that not just kind of fans of clubs, but they actually own that football club is a pretty strong affiliation, especially if you have a Twitter account for it and other social media stuff. So I think that plays a big part. And then I guess just kind of having pretty competitive games really. So making sure that I think the league system itself will kind of ensure this, that people that are, let's say, putting more money in are probably on average going to get promoted, but they also need to manage those funds well. So if you just go out and buy random players that don't really complement each other, it's not going to go very well. Whereas if you're kind of building a cohesive squad and bringing players up for your academy that kind of fill the gaps that you need them to fill, you'll have a kind of an equal chance. But obviously if you put money in and are an amazing manager, that's going to propel you to success. But we want to make it accessible for kind of all types of players.
I should probably get into how the beta's actually going just now, because obviously we only get screenshots as things stand, but I understand Sam's been a bit of a whiz.
Yeah, I'm quality at the game.
I think we're actually tied top at the moment.
Oh, are we?
You just seem to have a much better attacking force. I'm a stalwart in defence.
Yeah, I've got a player called Samuel Jordan, and he's an absolute player. I play a 3-5-2 with him, and I actually took so early on in the beta we were doing a bit of pink slips because we were testing out the player transfers, and me and George said, well, whoever wins will give you the best player. So I actually got Charlie Guzman in my team. I'm playing him up front alongside my star striker, and yeah, he's bagging me lots of goals.
Devastated.
I was going to say there's a face of regret as soon as you mentioned it from George. But have you noticed things like tactics having a real impact on the match engine and goals and chances, that kind of thing?
Definitely. I know today we were doing a few tests, so we were doing good teams against bad teams, but the team I was playing, they were playing attacking and I was playing balanced, and I was playing like a 3-5-2 in a balanced, and he was playing attacking. And I just had so many shots. I was just getting him. I must be getting him on the counter every single time. But yeah, that was where I saw it. I saw it showcased. And I know the other day as well, me and George, we both wanted a 1-0 against each other, I think. So we both went defensive. And yeah, there wasn't many goals in that game.
Yeah, and we also today, because we've been testing out the player trading. So Fraser, who's the kind of developer, actually gave away some of his players to test that, which meant he ended up with kind of his team of youngsters. So he thought it'd be a good experiment. If you do just kind of field a team of 18-year-olds, do they get destroyed? And I think they lost 7-1. Was it 7?
Yeah, it was 7-1. So,
yeah, it worked out.
It was a slaughter.
Yeah, so kind of as expected, I guess.
Yeah.
But the other thing that was quite apparent early doors is there was goals everywhere, and that seems to have been kind of narrowed down, so it's getting a little bit more realistic. Are there any other things that are getting tweaked as we speak, or was that the main focus?
Yeah, I think there's some on the kind of so you might have seen from the beta screenshots, the players that go into it and the kind of formation, it affects these kind of free ratings, so attacking, midfield, defensive, and there's a few things such as kind of tweaking what goes into the formulas that calculate those rating. So currently the defensive one, the kind of keepers are quite overweighted in terms of how they affect that. So probably a keeper should have a bit more influence than kind of one defender's rating, but also it shouldn't be, I think it was kind of currently set at 50-50. So dragging that down so that keepers do still have a larger than just an individual defender impact, but not kind of overwhelming, because otherwise it kind of means that I imagine in the game defenders would become quite undervalued, because if you just have an amazing keeper, then that would kind of change the ratings there. So there's kind of small things like that. And Obviously, we've been doing a lot of changes before deploying the beta from when we were originally doing the alpha testing, which is what you kind of saw on the live stream that we did with the kind of Soccer Saturday. So just making sure that all of those have integrated correctly. There's been a few bugs that we just kind of squashed. But yeah, I think we're definitely getting to a stage where we can kind of continue opening it up, hopefully over the next couple of weeks. And obviously it's going to be phase 2 with a few content creators, community members, as well as some more of the kind of advisors for Footium. And then phase 3 is pretty much just continuing to add more and more community members to that based on the applications that me and Sam have been reviewing. But eventually everyone will get a chance to get involved in the beta.
Yeah, it's probably a good time to bring up the most popular question I got asked was Wen Beta. So is there a timescale in mind for when we're going to get different tranches of people in? Like, I take it the plans to get everyone in by the end of Q1, where the game's meant to be launching fully.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, hopefully, I don't want to give specific deadlines, but we can say kind of, I guess the target is have phase 2 integrated before the end of January, and then maybe kind of phase 3, depending on how much feedback there is from the kind of phase 2 testers and any other features we need to implement or bugs to fix. Hopefully sometime in early February would be kind of start expanding to pretty much everyone, but obviously depends on the feedback that we get, etc. But I'd say, yeah, that's a rough timeline. And then the kind of length that the beta runs for is again dependent on how much do people think we need to add. Is there any kind of major bugs and kind of redesigns we need to do? Oh, my alarm. And also, is there kind of any anything we want to add ourselves before doing the full launch? I think there'll probably be like, we'll stop the beta for a couple of weeks, add any final features in that we wanted to, and then do the proper launch. So I think aiming for late Q1, but it is kind of dependent on how the beta goes, really.
Gotcha. And when the beta is done and the game is getting its full launch, will it go straight into games, or will there be a few days for people to get in to see their squad and make their changes if there's a free agent pool to maybe add a few players before things get underway?
Yeah, it's probably the way we'll do it is kind of, so it'll act as though a season's just finished. So you have like the summer period to do transfers to bring through the academy players, maybe let's say 5 days or something like that to sort everything out. We can do the legendary player auctions as well, and then kick the season off after that.
Calm before the storm.
Yeah.
So kind of final thing to bring up then. Obviously, there's a bit of a reputation that goes about with certain things in crypto being rug pulls and scams and so on are reasonably prevalent around. So how would you give confidence to somebody getting interested and getting involved in Footium that everything is just on the up and it's going to be there for them?
Yeah, I guess that there's like, from being in crypto like 5-6 years, I've seen my fair share of scams and rug pulls. And obviously during like 2017, there was the whole ICO bubble that very, very harshly popped on everyone, but everyone kind of could see it coming, because you see these projects with like a team that had like no experience in crypto and was clearly very much just a cash grab. They didn't have any kind of progress to show. It was just, we've got this cool idea and a nice pitch deck. We want to raise 10 million at this valuation, and people would buy it because other ICOs that were similar had kind of done well off the back of that, purely from just, I think, people's FOMO. So I think with anything in crypto and in investing in general, obviously there is risk involved, so you have to take that into account. But what you can do as an individual is obviously the classic saying of do your own research, but look at the teams, look at their kind of backgrounds. Do they have experience in crypto, experience in gaming, etc.? Look at the community as well. Like our Discord is kind of an open discussion channel. Ask people in there kind of is there any kind of risks or potential things that I should be aware of before putting my money into this project? And yeah, just looking at kind of especially investors as well. If it's raised fundraising round, what investors is it raised from? Do they look kind of sketchy, or are they investors with portfolios with lots of other successful companies in? Because that can be quite a good indicator as well. So I think there's definitely a lot you can do on your own side, but there's always still a kind of risk with any crypto project that it could either purposefully rug pull or accidentally rug pull, etc. So I think anyway, just never invest more than you can kind of comfortably afford to lose. It's just good for any kind of investing, but particularly with crypto because it is so risky and volatile. But yeah, there's a lot you can do to kind of, I guess, reduce that risk as much as possible, and looking at all those different factors and then trying to come to a kind of decision on your own there.
Right, and I'll throw it to Sam for any final words on Footium, or basically kind of anything you want to throw in to finish us off.
Just that I'm excited for everyone to get playing. I can't wait to see some more of the banter between clubs on Twitter, and I'm just excited to see everyone playing and see who's going to be the best manager.
I warn anyone else in my league that I will be unbearable if I go on a win and run, and if I'm looking as if I'm going to win a league. So that's out there now, right? Don't blame me if I start getting the ego going.
Have you found some people in your league?
One or two. So
oh yeah,
I've got 3 clubs right enough at the minute. So we'll see. We'll see if I've still got all 3 by the time we're
big
going,
pressure,
or whether
big
one
pressure
gets
for you,
sniped
though.
off if it's doing well. So, but no, I'm really looking forward to it. I think like it's the most excited I've been for something to get going in a long, long time. So I just hope I'm not terrible at it, to be honest. But no, thank you very much for giving me some of your time, guys. Really appreciate it.
No,
And
thank you.
obviously, if anyone watching has any questions, as guys have said, jump in the Discord, and Sam's there. Sam just loves it, basically.
I love it. Yeah,
George is around as
always
well. Tag them, ask them questions. More than happy to answer, aren't you guys? So
yeah, any question, always.
And that does include things that aren't Footium based as well, but I'll leave it at that.
Yep,
so
that's it.
Cheers, guys. Appreciate it. And catch you later.
Cheers, mate. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
See ya.